And are you refreshed? Good. Now what?
Hi. What I want to talk about is enlightenment. And here's...
Which is what we call alignment.
Okay. Here's where I get a little hung up.
That's not enlightenment.
I know. Thanks, bye.
Want to sit back? Want to sit back further?
I'm aware from the discussion today how I am not in a place where that can happen because of my own vibration and...
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. But I do practice a lot and have for many years. One of the things that doesn't make sense to me is there's a couple of teachers out there who appear to have that state, that attainment. And when you read about how they attained that, they were in a state of complete and utter despair. And then this awakening happened to them, presumably out of the blue. They weren't theoretically wanting it. They didn't know what it was. But there it is. And then their entire lives changed.
This thing happens to all of you in this sense. When you really know what you don't want, you launch stronger rockets about what you do want. So it's logical that in a time of true and utter despair that you would launch a stronger rocket of desire than ever before. Ordinarily, once you launch that rocket, you are not prepared to maintain the frequency of it. It takes some practice for everyone. What happens is you sift through life, you launch a rocket, it's new to you, you're used to hanging around over here in the absence of it, but then you can meditate and you can focus on positive aspects and you can find the feeling place of the new desire and you can close that gap, and now you've closed the gap, so you're standing in the vibrational frequency with the vibrational version of it, and now it manifests. And along with that comes a new set of contrasting experiences, which causes more launching of rockets. Sometimes, if the contrast is very strong, a very strong rocket is launched. And so that's what you're describing. But it takes focus to hold yourself in vibrational alignment with what you want. Now, maybe it was an experience that was so extraordinary and so astonishing that it got their attention and they were never able to not think about that again. In other words, a sort of miraculous thing that happened and they knew it, and so it was easy for them to stay focused there. But just the same, they launched a rocket and somehow managed to stay in vibrational sync with it.
I guess it's that miraculous thing that I want.
Well, the thing about that is, and we wish alignment for you also, but we would rather that you don't get in a place where you think that you have to achieve it and maintain it forevermore, because it's something that you can get back to anytime you choose to. Alignment is not something like a college degree where once you receive your diploma it is yours forevermore. It either is or it isn't in the moment, and you can tell by the way you feel, and then you can do something about it. So alignment really is a practiced state of vibration, and the reason that we so much want you to hear this is because you will never stop reaching for more. No one is ever going to launch a rocket and that's all they're going to ever ask for. You want to continue to reach for more and reach for more and reach for more. That's what evolution is all about. That's what eternalness is all about. So being in a relaxed state, not beating up on yourself about not being in alignment, is really a wonderful state of being. We've been talking about step 1, ask, step 2 is answered, step 3, get into the receiving mode. But a step 4 really is a mastery of that. It's a recognition that I might not be there all the time. I don't need to be there all the time, but I certainly know the difference. And I can get better and better at being unconditional in my alignment. When you finally reach the place that you don't need a condition to be a certain way before you accomplish alignment, you've really got a good thing going, because now you can be stable under any and all conditions. And before you know it, you have achieved mastery of your alignment. And then you get into a place, someone talked us into calling this step 5 the other day, and we think it's a good idea. You get to this place where you actually realize that contrast does serve you. You don't feel negative about contrast. You feel enlightened by contrast. You feel served by it. You feel like it's variety that helps you to choose in a more efficient way. Sort of like Contrast is choices, sort of like being at a buffet. And when you reach that place where you're not condemning the part of contrast that you don't like, but instead you're blessing all of it for the clarity and choice that it produces within you, then you can move around this world enlightened and happy.
Wonderful.
And continually expanding, recognizing that you never get it done.
So there's more and more. There's never a state that's like, okay, I've got it now. It's like, even when you feel at peace or enlightened or in alignment or whatever, the more you practice it, the deeper it gets.
Absolutely. And here's some examples of that. So let's say that you want something that you don't have, and you feel the angst of that, but you know what to do. And so you cool your jets, you relax a little, you meditate some, you go general, you soothe yourself, you stop fussing about it. So your desire is ripe and source is on it, and now in the absence of your resistance, you move into alignment with it, and so you feel that peacefulness, you feel that satisfaction. But you're also asking for expansion. You're also an eternal being, and so life's going to show you something else to which you will come into alignment, and then life's going to show you something else. In other words, that's why you want to continue to return. That's why this time-space reality is such a delicious place to be. That's why you benefit one another in your diversity so much.
I get it.
No ending to the desires that will be born within you. And now you got to understand this next piece for that to be a satisfying thing. Because if we say to someone who believes that they will only be happy once they get that, and once they get that, and once they get that, once they accomplish all those big things that they want, you go down the list, I need to get all these things in place and then I'll be happy. If that is your belief, then comments like we have just been making do not please you when we say you never get it done. You're never going to stop having new desires be born. But if you understand that what happiness is alignment with the new idea, then you want to say, bring them on. If you begin to realize that it is not the destination that you're reaching for, it's the process along the way that is so life-giving. Several of you were on the Alaskan cruise that left from Seattle and returned to Seattle, and we were teasing our cruising group one day in seminar. We said it would be like showing up at the port and them saying to you, well, this is where we are leaving from, and it's also where we are coming back to, so get off now. Your journey has been completed. See, it says right here on the itinerary, leave Seattle, returns to Seattle, so get off now. And everyone would be a little unhappy about that, because they weren't taking the cruise to complete it. They were taking it to be on it. They were taking it for the fun, for the places, for the experiences. And so that's what your destinations or goals or the things that you want are. They're just your excuse to keep a going, you see. And when you relax into that never-ending freshness of desire, people, we began with this comment today, people sometimes put enough contradiction into their own desires that their desires don't feel pleasant. But when you figure out how to no longer do that, so that your desire stays fresh and rich, then new desires are something that you savor, something that you want, because you realize it's just more opportunity for you to be pleased by your relationship with life and with source flowing through you in your life. So the contentment that you talk about, that contentment is alignment. That contentment is enlightenment. That clarity is enlightenment. That absence of resistance is. But how are you going to know the deliciousness of absence of resistance unless you've experienced some presence of resistance? How are you going to know that you want to eat or that you've had enough? How are you going to savor food if you haven't been hungry? How are you going to feel the satisfaction of soothing yourself if you haven't gotten a little out of whack? This is the way you're molding the clay. But step 4 and further step 5 is when you don't freak out in any moment that you're not in that miraculous state of alignment. And it is our promise to you, We don't care who they are or what they said. They are never always there.
Okay. Thank you. That's
Esther
good.
does a much better job of alignment when you all are expecting her. She makes sure she's ready for you. She tunes in, she meditates, she does focus wheels, she gets ready for you. Should have seen her yesterday. No. She stays there mostly, but you've got to be flexible in your world, yes?
Yeah.
And there is no one holding you to a standard. There's no one saying, you're not in alignment, we're done with you. In fact, the reason you feel negative emotion is because we are never done with you. If your source would let loose of you when you were feeling negative emotion, your negative emotion would go away immediately, because your negative emotion is your indicator that you're not where source is vibrationally. So every time you feel bad, say to yourself, good, source is still with me. It's worth a try. Source must really care. Source must be focused. Source must see this differently than I'm seeing it. Source must know something that I'm not letting myself know right now. Wonder what it is. As you start looking, you'll find it.
Hello.
Yeah.
It's great to be here. So I've been listening to your stuff, and you talk about we have a vibrational escrow account where the things we desire are stored.
In a vibrational version that you've got to translate into reality through your attention to it, by your practice of it, by your realization of it. It's been revealed, you got to realize it.
So in the space of wanting to get in the vibration, feeling it now, but also noticing the absence of it, what I've been doing is imagining myself flying out of my body and going to a time in the future when the thing, the desire, the accomplishment has been realized, and then bringing in that vibrational energy from that moment.
Good process.
Into the now.
Yeah, we can see how that could work for you if you're able to go there.
And
because what you're doing, you're bridging the fact that your now eyes can't see it by moving into future eyes, by moving into a future experience, by dawning a future experience. That's a good process.
And then bringing in those energies into the moment, and you talk about the 68 seconds.
Because it doesn't matter whether you are focused upon the past or the present or the future, you're doing it now. So as you are envisioning something that you want, you are activating it in your now, which is now bringing it to your now. But the question is, and it's what we've been dancing around with here today, is as long as that visualization is not making you say, wait a minute, it's not here. In other words, if the visualization is strong enough, then that balance will tip on the fulcrum. It will.
So bringing those energies in the moment and then bringing it into now, it creates like this sweet spot for me vibrationally.
See, we want to say something to you that by the time you're doing that, what's happened is you've already achieved close enough proximity to your vortex that you're already beginning to translate it. That is what's happening. You're actually peering into your vortex and seeing what's there. Because the first stages of turning those vibrations to thoughts and those thoughts to things is that imagery, is that imagination. Or when it happens in your dream state, it is the same thing too.
Okay.
So once you're doing that consistently, you are on the verge of full manifestation.
So the next step would be consistency between the steps.
And the consistency comes with the enjoying it. I'm enjoying the pleasure of these thoughts rather than I'm doing this to make something happen. Because when you're doing it to make it happen, what hasn't happened gets a little foothold. If you're doing it for the pleasure, then there's no resistance. There's no downside to that. So that's where imagery comes in, just for the pleasure. Sitting and contemplating pleasurable thoughts is the most productive thing that you could do. So much so that we're encouraging you to do 20% less, do 30% less, do 40% less, do half of what you're usually doing, do 60% less, do 70% of what you usually do, and contemplate 70% more than you usually do, and watch how it flips. reality will get you. What is? All that action and all that reality is the basis of the resistance that you keep throwing on your trail. Now we know you're arguing for your limitations. We will call each of your employers and explain. You're going to find them a lot less active in the days coming up, but way more productive. They're going to be less active and way happier. And your employer might say, I don't really care so much about their happiness. I care mostly about their productivity. And we say, we promise you, if you will encourage happiness, productivity will ensue.